welcome to the January Street Studios, doing a lesson 8.1 for vocal compression. This is what you would use over a voiceover or a podcast recording cleanup. And the goal of this is going to be to apply compression in a voiceover context. The steps are listed here, of course, and they're a little bit more explained on this side right here. The overall goal, you can read right here, is to make the audio sound even and clear with consistent volume throughout, and trying to keep the sound between -9 decibels and -15 decibels on the GR meter. We also have a checklist for step-by-step instructions that you can use. So as you go along, you can check these off and make sure you've done it correctly. Let's go over to our Soundtrap and figure out what to do next. As you can see, I've already duplicated the original track and edited the names of these. If you have not done these on your own when it's time to do this, make sure you do this. Original and vocal edits. Also make sure you mute the original and then also freeze that original track. As we go through, we can check off these off the list. Rename vocal edits, freeze and mute. Now we're going to add the dynamics compressor to the effects. If you're not sure what the dynamics compressor is or what it does, I encourage you to go over to the compression terms for lesson 8. And we can find out here that it's a tool that helps control the volume of the audio by what's called compressing the dynamic range. Dynamic in music is volume. It means it makes the loud sounds quieter and can bring up softer sounds so that everything is more on an even and balanced overall sound. It means nothing's going to jump out at you if the person talking gets really loud, and that also if the voice starts getting very quiet, then it brings up those levels so we can hear it very well. Let's go to our Soundtrap again, and we're going to click on the icon for the microphone and go to the effects. Click on the effects and it'll give you a list. You can find this very quickly if you go to vocals, and it'll just move these around a little bit. We're going to find the dynamics compressor right here. When you click on it, it will add it over to the side. And one cool thing about this too is that if you mess up on these and you're just trying to reset it because you don't remember what all the levels are at, you can always just click the X out and then go back to the effects and add it again, and it will give you a clean version, a reset version. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to set this part right here, which is like our loop, because I want to make sure that I can hear this continuously without having to press stop and start and stop and start again. So as we go through the audio for the first time, we're just going to press play and see what it sounds like. At Cayman University, Malik's eyes are opened to a future he never could have envisioned for himself. One that includes the reappearance of his first love, Alexis. And so you can already tell that the beginning of this is fairly quiet. And we can also see this if we expand these down a little bit more. We can see that this part right here starts a little loud, has some spikes on it, but then gets very quiet here. And then when we get back to this section on the second part of it, it's much louder voice. So you can see as it keeps going along, we can see these dips and these highs, and that's what we're going to be trying to change throughout here. Now this will not physically look different, but it will sound different. So you have to go by what you hear on this one. And this time when we listen to it, we're going to adjust the threshold and then the ratio. Now, the threshold sets the volume level, like the limit at which the compression begins to affect. So any sound above that line will be compressed. So anything louder than whichever level you put it at, it's going to automatically bring it back to where the line is on that. Also, the sounds below that line will be unaffected. We're also going to play with the ratio knob, which controls the strength of that compression. It tells the compressor how much to reduce of that volume, and it pretty much it's like how much is it going to let through versus how much is it going to let freely be heard. So going back to our list, we're going to adjust the threshold and then the ratio to balance this out as much as possible. So our threshold is going to be the first one up, and we see this here on the right hand side in the middle. We're going to press play again. At Cayman University, Malik's eyes are opened to a future he never could have envisioned.
Let's try to
for
put
himself.
it to 0 and see what happens.
One that includes the reappearance of his first love, Alexis.
It doesn't sound very good, so we're going to bring it back.
For answers about his heritage, his powers, and what really happened to his mother exposes the cracks in their magical community as it faces a reawakened evil dating back to the Haitian Revolution.
Down again.
Together with Alexis, Malik discovers a lot beneath the...
As you see this being played, I'm going to bring the volume a little bit further down and just press play. So we don't hear it as loud, of course, right now, but you can see it where the GR meter is. And you can see where this line goes to like the -3 to the -6. And sometimes the quiet parts are really underneath -3, between -3 and 0. Now, according to our goals on this, is we want to get it between -9 and -15 decibels on that GR meter. So let's change the threshold again and magical politics until it kind of brings it right into the middle of that.
At Cayman University, Malik's eyes are opened to a future he never could have envisioned for himself. One that includes the reappearance.
So the highs are getting about to -12.
His search for
the lows are reaching -9 on that. Now we're going to adjust the ratio and see what happens when we do this. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it all the way down. And then it completely took off our GR meter, so obviously that's not going to work. So let's bring it back up.
And magical politics, forbidden knowledge, and buried mysteries. At Cayman University.
And see, now we get to the 3, and it's surpassing that -9 on the lows. And it goes all the way to -18 on the highs. I'm going to bring that compression down a little bit more.
His heritage, his powers, and what really happened to his mother exposes the cracks in their magical community as it faces a reawakened evil.
So now we're getting about -12.
Together with Alexis,
-15 for the highest on here.
Beneath the surface at Cayman. Feuding covens, and magical politics, forbidden knowledge, and buried mysteries.
Let's press pause and see what our goal is on this again. Again, between -9 and -15 decibels. I think this is going to be okay. I'm going to press play on this again.
At Cayman University, Malik's eyes are open.
And so yeah, we're right in between them. And at the quiet parts, it's above, it's between -9 and -12. At the louder parts, it is now almost reaching -15, but that's okay. So we have that now, and we're going to go to the next step. Now we're going to adjust the attack and release to smooth out these transitions. The attack and the release control how quickly the compressor responds. The attack is at the beginning of the part that becomes louder or softer, and the release is at the end. So the attack is at the beginning of it. Like if you're playing a musical instrument, you would use articulation. It's the same thing for this. The release would also be the release of the note, release of the sound. So in this instance, we want to see what happens when we bring the attack all the way down and then all the way up and then find something in the middle. Mostly a sudden loud sounds like really loud drum hits or shouting. You want to have that work really quick because you don't want to blow out speakers or hurt people's eardrums if they have earbuds in. The release is the same way. You don't want it lingering too much because sometimes it becomes too soft and you can't hear it when it changes abruptly. So we're going to press play again. And we're going to adjust this attack all the way down.
One that includes the reappearance of his first love, Alexis. His search for answers.
And now we can see that everything is staying right here between that -9 and 15. Now, it's going above -15 just a little bit, so we're going to put it at 1 millisecond.
Back to the Haitian Revolution. Together with Alexis, Malik discovers a lot beneath the surface.
And then for the release, we're going to bring this down too. Now you notice this is in milliseconds, not seconds, but milliseconds.
At Cayman University, Malik's eyes.
So 1 millisecond to actually change it over, and 10 milliseconds to bring it back at the end. And this here seems to be where we at. We have got it between -9 and 15 for most of our vocal parts. We have adjusted the attack and release, the threshold, and the ratio. Now we just need to use the mix to blend and see if it does anything for that. The mix will blend between the compressed sounds and the uncompressed sound. And so remember, the compressed sound is the only part that is when it gets too loud. The mix is going to change it so that we're going to see how it adjusts everything in between. But it starts at 1. We're going to bring it all the way down.
Search for answers about his heritage, his powers,
and see what this does.
What really happened to his mother exposes the cracks in their magical community as it faces a reawakened evil dating.
Now you can see that even the quiet parts are at -15. We don't want to have it at -15 for everything. We want to have some change.
And magical politics, forbidden knowledge, and buried mysteries.
And as we bring this back up again, the quiet parts
are opened to a future he never could have envisioned for
are coming back down to the words -9.
The reappearance of his first love,
and the loud part is still kept out at -15 because that's where our threshold is going to cap it.
And what really happened to his mother exposes the cracks in their magical community as it faces a reawakened evil dating back to the Haitian Revolution. Together with Alexis,
And that seems to be what we have on theirs. So it's hitting all our requirements on this. We've adjusted all the things we need to. We're not going to touch the knee just yet. But we have done everything else with the threshold, and the ratio, the attack and release, and then the mix. Once you have that, then you can bring this volume back up. You can tell that when you're playing the volume on it, you don't really need to have the volume up when you're listening to it if you're going by the meter. It is always a good thing, though, to listen to it with the volume at the end just to see how it pans out for the final result.
At Cayman University, Malik's eyes are opened to a future he never could have envisioned for himself. One that includes the reappearance of his first love.
So that sounds pretty good already, or it's changing already and it's not overpowering everything else. So now, your turn to go into lesson 8.1 and do the independent practice on that one. And please follow the same steps so that you can come up with a really great recording.